Hello, everyone. This is Trista, your host for A Purpose-Driven Wife podcast. Now, before I get started with the final series to God's design for sex and marriage, I want to just kind of show you guys, or just kind of talk with you guys and give you, and show you my heart for this whole series and why I had this explicit conversation with Megan and what my whole point is in really having a topic like this on my podcast. Okay. So I started this podcast and really just trying to encourage moms, wives, military spouses, and everyone in between that is trying to stay encouraged, trying to stay motivated in their God-given gift, the journey that God has them on. I'm also, if you don't know, I am a Christian. And so through the Word of God, I want to not only through the Word of God, but also with my testimony and with others' testimonies, I want to encourage you in where you're at right now. Okay. And so I've also shared, and I also wrote a book about just the journey that I went through with my husband, just being so driven in business, and how just my whole family and just basically my life was chaotic. Okay. And so I don't want that for anybody else. Okay. And so through that whole process, God really just began to show me that He wants me to be successful in every area of my life, and not just in business, okay, but in my marriage, and really self-care, and really caring for myself, and really my family, okay, and with my walk with Him. And so with this podcast, I want to show you, what does that look like? What does that look like in a marriage? And not just in business, and not just with my children and my family, okay? Through the Word of God, and like I said, through the testimonies, my testimony, and others' experts' testimonies, I want to show you what that looks like. So for right now, in the month of February, I'm showing you what does that look like for a marriage. Okay, I've shared different tools, and I've wrote out different scriptures. If you want to take a look at the past episodes, and what is God's design for marriage and sex, okay? And so to be successful in marriage, that includes sex, okay? And so that's why I get very explicit with Megan, who is also a coach and who is an expert in really coaching couples in having a successful, God-driven marriage. What does that look like? Okay. And so that is my heart and my whole purpose in really sharing and being explicit in this whole month of February on what does that look like when it comes to sex, in marriage and things like that. Okay. So like I said, the topics and the things that we talk about is not, for children to hear. This is only for adults. And we talk about some really touching topics. And again, I do want to put that disclaimer that, if this is not for those that have suffered some anything awful in their past concerning anything. Okay. Megan does talk about getting healed, getting help, so that you can deal with, the past hurts and things like that. Okay. And this is for those that have gotten healed. If this did happen to you or anything like that, when it comes to sex and marriage and different things like that, if you have been broken but at the same time, you've been healed, and you are looking for tips and things like that, that's what this podcast or this episode that I'm talking with Megan is about. Okay. This is for you. Okay. And so I want to, put that warning, just kind of share that with you. I have also shared that in other episodes as well. And I will link that in my, in my blog post as well, in the show notes. And so again, if you guys are interested, definitely check out A Purpose Driven Wife at adrivenwife.com. And so without any further ado, I just want to share you guys, or just let you guys know my heart behind this. Just really why am I putting out this type of information? Okay, so I hope you got it. Definitely enjoy. You will be blessed. Okay, and I pray that you enjoy. And if you have any questions or comments, definitely hit me up on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or on my blog, A Purpose Driven Wife, at adrivenwife.com. Be blessed, guys. Hello, everyone. Okay, this is Trista, your host from A Purpose Driven Wife podcast, and this is part 3, guys. All right, we are having so much fun with this topic on sex. There's so much that we can talk about, and hence why this is a part 3. But there's a lot of topics that I really want to just hone in and talk about, because there's no school that says, for Christian women that actually enjoy sex, they want to have, a thriving marriage. And part of having a thriving marriage is having good sex. And nobody is talking about that. Nobody is really talking about, how do you give good head? How do you pleasure your husband? How does your husband pleasure you when it comes to things like that? So I love Megan and the things that she is doing with her husband, Casey, from Marriage 365. They both are marriage coaches, authors, and speakers. And this whole conversation has really enlightened me. I'm getting educated, guys. I don't know about you. But Megan, so I don't know if this is going to be like the last part, but we'll just see how the Holy Spirit drives this. So I want to discuss more about... because I know you had some opinions about 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah. And I know, like, the whole Christian community literally, like, flipped out. How could Hollywood do this? Again, with the pornography and dominatrix. This is not a good idea. And all of that. Could you please just share with us, just your take on that, and just some advice that we can kind of get from it as well?
Yeah, so I want to start off by saying that for many years, I spent so much of my time and energy being very legalistic, meaning that I felt like I was a Pharisee, right? I was
yeah.
Everybody around, what they read, what they did, how they dressed, when I really should have just been looking at myself. So I'm going to start off by saying that. So when this whole 50 Shades of Grey thing came out, I like to read. I enjoy reading. And to be honest with you, I love romance novels. I really do. I read all the Karen Kingsbury romance novels, and, I love them. And so I read all 3 books. And I have a very different view about books and the ideas behind it. And I thought, for me, what was most frustrating, Trista, was that people were judging it, but then they didn't read it. So you assumed, which I think is not fair, ever to assume that you know what's going on until you actually experience or go through something. I think it's very, very hard to assume someone's perspective. So one of the things that people don't know, that if you have not read 50 Shades of Grey, is that Christian Grey, the main character, was molested at a very young age by his mom's best friend. And he was also adopted. So this boy, literally boy, grew up having a very skewed view of sex, which is so common nowadays for men and women, right? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, something happens, molestation, a rape, and then it's like our whole world changes. And so he thought that that's what sex was domination. You have a contract with someone, there's pain involved, rather than love and grace and right? And pleasure. Mm-hmm. And so he meets this girl, now in the first book, they're not married. So I do not agree with that part of the book, the story. I don't believe in sex before marriage. So, but what I do think that I'm sad is that people didn't pay attention to is that when he did try this on this new girl, Anastasia, she said no. She didn't like it. She felt unloved, and she left him. And she said, hey, listen, this isn't for me. This is wrong. You need help. Anyways, the second book, they get married. They're married. They end up having kids. The last book, sorry if that's a spoiler alert for you. But we don't talk about that. And I think that the storyline is actually a beautiful storyline where he gets help. And she loves him through that. And he realizes that being molested at a young age really did affect his sexuality as an adult, which is exactly what pornography does, which is exactly what rape does to anybody who's experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just able to take kind of a different view. I mean, like I said, if you're single, I would not recommend reading the books. But one of the things I was able to pull away, and I loved about it, was that it got married couples, talking about their sex life. Yeah. And I love that. And they started coming up with new ideas and creative ideas where they could start having more pleasure together. And yeah, I'm sure the first book is premarital sex, and I don't agree. But other than that, I was able to walk away going, you know what? My husband and I had some really good conversations about anal sex and about having sex on your period, because they talk about that in the book. And there's women who love to have that. And I was like, wow, I don't think I ever want to do that. But it got us talking about it. And so I think that was one of the best things that I would say that came from that, was that I saw many of my friends that had never talked about their sex life finally discussing it with their husbands. And so, you know, in regards to anal sex, if you're married and you both find pleasure in that, there is not one place in the Bible that says it's wrong. It only says it's wrong if it's between a man and a man. And so if you're like, hey, I'm kind of embarrassed, but I like it and my husband likes it, please don't be embarrassed. Embrace it, enjoy it. Good for you. Now, there are some health risks that you need to be aware of. When you go for your annual PAP, you need to have them check your rectum, because it is a hole that, you know, things go out of.
Right.
You can get infections. The walls on your anus can actually weaken. So that for the future, there could be problems there. So just be aware, talk to your doctor. Hey, I'm having regular anal sex, but there is nowhere in the Bible that it says it's wrong between a husband and a wife. And then the same goes to the whole, you know, whips and chains and tying up. Listen, if you both love it and you're having fun and you're laughing or you're crying good cry and you're enjoying and you're connecting and you really both truly are loving it, I see there's nothing wrong with it. It's when one is like, ooh, I don't like this. This feels uncomfortable. Then stop. Then don't do it.
Yeah. And so is anal sex in the book?
I can't remember. I don't think they really talk about it that much. I think maybe when they do it and she didn't like it or something like that. But they do talk about having sex when she's on her period. And I know a lot of women, they like it because a lot of women have cramps and it helps. I don't know. To be honest with you, I've never tried it. I don't have a desire to, because I just feel so gross at that time. But hey, once again, it goes back to the rule that if you both like it and you're both finding pleasure, then sure, go for it.
And I really like that, because it really is about just what works for your relationship. If you know, anal sex and whips and chains work for you, then by all means, if that brings you guys closer as a couple, why not do it? Do it. It's whatever helps bring you closer. And I think that's what sex does in a marriage. It brings you closer, you know, just closer as a couple. And you just do whatever feels good, you know? Mm-hmm.
And it brings you closer in a different way than other things, right? I mean, that's the thing. I believe when God was designing us, he was like, hey, I'm going to bring this physical aspect to the relationship. But when you're having amazing sex and you're both orgasming and you're connected and you just feel you do feel those feelings of love again. There is this emotional and even spiritual connection that I don't believe you get with other things. It's just different, and it's so sweet and amazing. And obviously, like I said, it's a gift to marriage. God said, listen, they say that when you orgasm, it's the same exact hit as like a heroin hit, like drugs, right?
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So that's why pornography, of course, is bad, because it's an addiction and you want it more and more, and it's self-sex. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I think, like, when you're having that same hit with your husband, oh my gosh, why wouldn't you want that more and more and more? Sure, life gets in the way, things happen. Yes. But every opportunity you can, I mean, I'd say any way that you can connect on a spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical level, that is sex. Literally. And foreplay, kissing, sex, the whole intimacy in general, right? Not just sex. But it's a beautiful thing. I think what we believe about sex is how our actions are played out. And if we believe that sex is dirty or wrong or uncomfortable or hurt, then we have a bad mindset, and our habits show that. But if we think sex is a gift from God and that it's pleasurable and it's fun and wow, my husband loves me and he chose me. Yeah. we go into the bedroom with a whole different attitude.
Oh, you be like, yeah, we're going to turn this room out. Come on, let's go.
Exactly.
And you know what? And I really like that because, you know, and it's also learning about yourself and learning, you know, because sometimes in life, you get so caught up in like the routine and life that sometimes just taking a step back and just reminding yourself what attracted you to your spouse. Like for me, I love it. Like it literally turns me on when my husband is like talking to other people and he's laughing. He tells these funny jokes. Like he is so funny. That like literally like I'm just like, come on, let's go. Let's go in the room.
No, I love it. And I'm the same way. When I see my husband be silly with our kids, I'm just like, man, I pick a good man. Like, he's such a good dad. He's that fun Disneyland dad that gets to be here all the time. And the kids are like, my dad's the coolest. And I'm like, yep, that's my husband right there. Now, I could focus
yes.
on the fact that he has literally a pile of clothes sitting next to me as we speak that is like up to my knees.
Uh-huh.
I could focus on that. But I don't want to focus on that. I want to say, listen, this man and I, we are under God one, and we are going to enjoy each other's bodies, you know. Mm-hmm. And let me say too, I encourage any of you, going back to the 50 Shades of Grey thing, replace 50 Shades of Grey with any movie, with any recent scandalous story in Hollywood, right?
Yes.
Rather than spending your time and energy focusing on, oh my gosh, how dare they, and how could they, and this is the wrong. Let's not judge other people, because first off, we don't know where other people come from, okay?
That's true, yeah.
And let's spend that time and that energy on your own marriage. Because I wanted to quickly judge the people who read 50 Shades of Grey, and then my girlfriend totally called me out on it. One of my best friends who's so good at that, you all, by the way, have to have a friend that you can call and say, I need prayer because I'm having sex with my husband and I need to be on the prayer chain because I want a good orgasm. Let me tell you, there's power in prayer. And when you pray for good sex, it shows up in a big way, okay? It's really, really weird, but it's so amazing. And so make sure you find a friend that you can go to say, listen, I want you to pray for me because I'm having sexy time with my husband tonight and I want that support. And a good girlfriend will say, yeah. But also, a good girlfriend will say, hey, Megan, stop judging other people. Read it for yourself. Stop complaining and stop making up these stories in your mind. And that's what I was saying. When I was reading it, sure, there were things I definitely did not agree with. But then I was also able to learn a lot and take away and go, wow, she did portray this man that was very hurting. And actually there was healing by him getting married and seeing what good, healthy sex looked like in a marriage. So anyway.
I like that because, you know, we are so conditioned to pornography and bad sex and, you know, whatever the media kind of shows. What does healthy sex look like? You know, and just increase that, like kind of pump that up. And let's talk about that. What does healthy sex look like? That also includes the whips and chains. You know, if that brings you closer, then it's different for every spouse, for every marriage, you know? And so I like that. And that's really why I like talking about these topics, because we are so conditioned to what the media is showing and that sex is bad. Oh my God, ew. But it's so good. It is so good.
It is. And you know, another great, a great thing that people talk about is like the Roleplay and Vanity. And I'm hesitant on that only because that usually is associated to pornography. Yeah. So if you have a husband that's saying like, hey, I really want you to dress up as fill in the blank, like a specific character. I'm not talking about lingerie. Yeah. I'm talking about like, I don't know. I'm going to give a G-rated one. Princess Leia. No. Yeah. No. Star Wars fantasy. No. I don't know. A naughty nurse or something.
Yes.
Usually is it tied to pornography. And I would be careful with that. I think it's funny if you dressed up as something in your Halloween costume and then your husband's like, hey, you look really cute in that. Can you wear that tonight? Yeah. Different, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're actually, they're thinking like, hey, I want you to dress up as someone else. Ooh, that's one area I would say, I don't know. I would just question and say, well, where does that come from? Like, why were you thinking that? And then just hear their heart, because it might be super innocent. But that's the only area I would really say, it kind of...
It's like tiptoeing, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I always say there's kind of a line You don't want to be next to the line. You want to be like 100 yards away from the line.
Yeah.
That line to me, I'm kind of, and then same with masturbation. I'm going to go, can I talk about masturbation?
Yes, please.
So we talked last time about mutual masturbation, but that's for the intent to know and gain knowledge about your body and about your spouse. That will benefit your marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're struggling or your husband's struggling with masturbation, there's definitely a red flag. That is a red flag.
So
self-sex.
So what do you mean by struggling with masturbation?
Meaning that they are turning towards that more than sex.
Okay.
Or maybe you caught them and they thought you were asleep and they were masturbating in the shower.
Okay.
I mean, if it's happening often, every once in a while, if you do it, I think one of the things I would say is if you travel often, it's a really common problem for couples. They'll masturbate.
Yes, especially in the military. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They'll masturbate, and that's a different subject. My husband traveled for work. I get that actually. I still think it's good to be open and honest with your spouse. To be like, man, I struggled. Like I thought of you so bad, and I masturbated. It's just a lot of keeping it honesty. When there's a lot of secrecy, right? There's shame associated, and shame is awful. Shame. It literally destroys connection.
Yeah.
That's really important for people to hear. Shame destroys connection. Empathy drives connection. So when we can feel with other people, oh, you were struggling with this, rather than nagging, judging, assuming, okay?
Yeah.
You can feel with them and go, wow, I'm so sorry you're feeling alone right now. That drives connection. So there's a lot of shame associated to anything sexually because of our culture. Or if we were raised in a very conservative home, we don't talk about it. It's very shameful. It's bad. It's naughty. So then when we do it, what's our first thought? Is we're bad. And shame is when we don't feel worthy of belonging and when we don't feel worthy of being loved.
Yeah.
And it will affect every area in your life.
Yeah.
And empathy, like I said, it drives connection. And so if there's masturbation going on, it's important to tell your spouse, like, hey, you've been traveling a lot, and I want to just be honest with you that I've masturbated a few times since you've been gone. I miss you. I love you. Can we phone sext tonight? Like, I need you. Can we Skype naked tonight? Like, when you're traveling, you've got to come up with creative ways.
Yeah.
Whether it's sexting, phone sex, masturbating on Skype, I don't know. Come up with creative.
Right.
And send love letters. Send naughty love letters. Put them in their suitcase and write.
Yes.
Anything you can do because distance is hard. There are temptations. And I would say, but masturbation, I'm going to say this to people who live together, okay? If you're together and someone's masturbating all the time without you, that's not good. That's a red flag and you either need to bring it up or if you're the person masturbating, you need to say something's going on because your spouse should be pleasing you, not just yourself. Because then why do you need to be married if you could just please yourself?
Yes.
That's just a red flag because people will say, well, we masturbate. Do you masturbate together though? That's great. That's saying, hey, my body changed and I want to show you some new stuff. That's great. But if you're separate, that's when it's not good. You need to be doing this together.
And I like the fact that you were honest because, when it comes to learning your body, right? When it comes to sex, after having children, like your body is just like going all kind of crazy, and then you have to relearn it again. You have to relearn it. Yeah.
And your hormones change. And let's be honest, as women, once a month we ovulate. Once a month we have a period. Sometimes you like your breast touched and the other times they're sensitive by right here.
It's super sensitive, yes.
Don't go near them. Don't touch them. Don't lick them. Don't lick them. Don't even look at them. Like, they're sensitive. But see, men don't know. You have to teach them.
Know.
And I feel like we need to be each other's coaches. In and out of it. And the more open we are with each other, the more honest we are. And phrase it in love, right? We say there's a method called the kiss, kick, kiss method. That means that you frame it in love. So you kiss them in the beginning, meaning that you say, babe, I love you so much. And I just want to say thank you so much for making more effort for our marriage. And then you do the kick, which is the issue. And you say, but I feel like lately when we go to the bedroom that it's kind of all about you. And I'm feeling a little left out and I'm feeling a little used. And then you end with another kiss. but I just want to affirm you because I love you. You're my best friend. Like, let's work on this. And so it's framed and literally sandwiched in love versus just attacking. And anytime someone brings up a conversation about sex, you never do it in passing. You're not doing it during doing the dishes or during a movie or when the kids are nearby or when your in-laws are with you. Yes. You say, hey, we need to carve out 30 minutes tonight and we need to have a talk about our sex life. Guarantee you husbands will show up for that one. And make that time and give them your attention. Turn off your phones. Make eye contact and say, I value you and I'm just not feeling connected to you. So we need to start brainstorming ideas on how we can connect emotionally and physically because I feel like it's not working for us and I want it to work. And so would you be willing to take some time with me tonight? And as a team, let's come up with new plans. This is what this whole thing that I love to talk about. If you can pull away anything from that, it would be that, is that you need to have open dialogue with your husband about sex and not feel ashamed. The less you talk about it, the more shame you have, ladies. Yeah. That's very key to knowing about shame. That's exactly where the enemy wants you. The less you talk about it, the more you have of it. And rather than saying, hey, babe, I'm struggling with this, or go to a friend, I'm struggling, can you pray for me? We have got to kill this shame epidemic because sex is literally tied to shame. There's so much out there, you guys. And
it's so true.
The recent statistic is 1 out of every 4 women have been sexually abused in their life.
Yes.
That's so high.
Yes.
I was shocked when I read that. And if that's true, which I'm going to believe it's true, then that means there's a lot of shame in this world. And we have got to, instead of judging other people, ew, you do anal sex? Ew, you do this? Let's just love them. And give them a safe place for them to share and cry and express themselves. And I think more and more women need to be supportive of their friends. And if their friend comes to you and is just complaining, say, hey, you know what? Instead of complaining, why don't you think positive about your husband? Let's encourage our other sisters in Christ and encourage them and turn their view to this, rather than this negative view of sex, to this amazing positive thing.
Yes. And it's the fact that if anal sex brings you together, then that's a blessing. That is a blessing because we have a lot of things already coming against us when it comes to marriage anyway, you know? So lifting each other up, even if they say, you know what, we have sex like every day. And I'm like, great, you know?
Yeah.
3 times a day.
I love their secret because we've done that before. That was hard.
You know, but, you know, I personally don't, but, you know, if that's what they do, then it's all about, what, you know, coming together as a couple. You know, we're both 2 different people coming together. And if having sex every day, anal sex, whips and chains brings you together, amen.
Hey, I love you for saying that. I think we're a rare breed, Trista, because I do believe that there are a lot of people so concerned on I think Christians want to be told what's right and what's wrong.
It's true.
And I believe that God only puts so much sexually in the Bible, obviously, because then it'd be a book all about sex and him. But also because I think, like he says, the marriage bed is undefiled. Like, go for it. Have fun. This is a gift. Do it. And so, I mean, you got to read Song of Solomon. That's another great kind of practical thing is if you want to be turned on, man, oh man. You know, get a commentary on Song of Solomon. You'll be like, whoa, for honey is not for honey, guys.
Yeah.
It's something else. It's a great read, you know?
Yes.
But you know what's funny is if you look at, not funny, it's really helpful, is if you look at Song of Solomon, that's the mindset of the 2 lovers, is they're both pleasing each other. It is not just the woman pleasing the husband. And if you read a book out there that says, just do it, I actually am anti the whole just do it. Like, you tell your husband, I'm not in the mood, but let's stop figuring this out and start figuring this out and let's get me in the mood. Let's find new ways. And sure, maybe 10, 20% of the time, there are days where I'm like, I really am doing this because I love you, but I'm still going into the bedroom with a good mindset of saying, I love you and I'm going to please you, not this is awful. Here we are again. We're pleasing him. That, ladies, is not healthy. And I know there's a few Christian books that say to do that. And I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like that's not a healthy view of how God designed sex to be. So
yes. And a healthy view is like you both are serving each other, wanting to please each other, you know?
Exactly.
And,
exactly. Yes. What's the second greatest commandment? love others.
Love others, yeah.
And if you're both loving each other, then that's exactly what God asks us to do. It's so simple, right? But we kind of complicate it.
We do, and, we want this magnificent, happily ever after marriage, but it takes some work, it takes some work.
And it does, I will say, the post-sex pillow talk that we talked about last time of having this open dialogue, the first couple times is awkward. That's okay. Push past it. You have to. If you think about having sex, I mean, that's a very vulnerable place. That's a very vulnerable thing to do.
Yes.
But remember that sex is a outward expression of love. It's a physical act of I love you. It's just another way to show your spouse how much you love them by pleasing them sexually. And there's tons of ways. And so that emotional connection is just such an important component of good, healthy sex. You can't just have great sex in a crappy marriage. You have to have both. You need to have both, I should say.
Yes, I love that. And I love the naked talks,
You ladies need to have some naked conversation.
So, Megan, thank you so much for coming on here. This has been very much enlightening for me, and to really, some more tools that we can put in the back of our pocket and be able to have that thriving marriage 365 days out of the year, right?
Yeah.
So,
so much for having me.
Yes. So if you can share just more about those naked conversation talks and then where people can learn more about your website and things like that.
Yeah. So we actually do a naked conversation webinar, which is basically a seminar on the web. Okay. So you watch us. We don't see you. So you could be naked or in your pajamas or at work or with your kids. And we do it once a month. And so we post them on our Instagram and Facebook pages, so you can our next one is in February, but we do it once a month. We pick a marriage topic.
Okay.
And we dive in deep like we are now. And we give very practical tips and tools. And then what my favorite part of the webinars is that we include a PDF that you would download, and they're called Couples Connecting Worksheets. And they're questions for you guys to talk about on your date nights. This is the whole thing I was talking about where we're starting the naked conversation, but it's up to you guys to finish the naked conversation together. We need you to take what you learned on the webinar and now talk about it in your marriage and find solutions that work for you guys, you two together as a team. Because just because it works for Casey and I, or even right for you, Trista, doesn't mean it might work for someone else. Yeah. And that's what these questions are geared toward. And then we usually do giveaways and freebies and all that stuff. So we have a store, so if you just go to marriage365.org, our site, there's a store on top, and you can just find all those webinars. They're only $10 a month. Okay. And we created them. That was one of the biggest things is we wanted to make it affordable. It's like a once-a-month date night for $10. So, and then, if people we have an Instagram account, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, the whole bit. And then we do have some books. Same thing. You can find them on our store. And I know last time I was on the show, I talked about our brand new premarital online course called Happy Ever After. Yes. And that's doing really well. And so if you're newly married, engaged, or we have so many couples that have been married years signing up for it, getting a lot of information. It really will give you a solid foundation for your relationship. And a lot of the tools we teach, you can actually self-correct a lot of the issues you have. So it's basically like 7 coaching sessions with my husband and I that we filmed and then recorded. And then same thing, we have over 125 questions for couples to go through and talk about.
Oh man, this is awesome. So you guys are just packed full of just resources and advice, and they even have some coaching guys. If you want some in-depth, like being able to share the dirty, if you feel that is dirty details, they are more than welcome to help you guys. So we will also have more of the information, all the links and websites that we have talked about in all 3 parts will all be on my website. Even the website, Marriage 365, and more information of just how you can get involved in what they're doing. I love, Megan, just a side note, that you guys are really showing what a healthy marriage is, and I'm just all about really advancing what God has really put in your heart, to really advance the kingdom.
Thank you so much, and you're amazing, and we just I love talking with you. It was the best hour and a half of my life. So thanks. I love talking about sex.
So guys, definitely head on over to A Purpose Driven Wife at adrivenwife.com for more information. And you guys have a blessed day.